Well, as we said at the end of the last video, the very first thing on our list is clean the motor. So I found a local shop that can hot tank it and do the cam bearings. But the first thing I'm going to do is pull out the pistons and crankshaft and get it stripped down so it can be hot tanked. So this is going to be fun because even though I have a lot of experience working on a lot of different cars, I've actually never owned or really worked on an LS before, which is kind of funny. It's one of the most ubiquitous motors in the US, and Bojack's in the same boat. So this is going to be a learning experience for both of us. If we do something wrong, just let us know in the comments. Tell us, shout at us, tell us we're dumb. I actually used to work at a GM dealership, but that was a long time ago. And I haven't rebuilt an engine in probably just as long. So it's been over 10 years since I've really gotten deep in the guts of a motor. So this is going to be a relearning experience and a learning experience for both of us. I hope you want to come along with our stupid journey and watch us learn things that a lot of other people already know how to do. Let's have fun. First thing I'm going to do is pull out these sensors. So what I'm going to do here is use a Ziploc bag. I'm going to put the sensors in this bag, so that way they stay nice and safe till we're ready for them again. So these right here are some little dowels. Just set the heads on. You can pull these out. They just sit in there. It only has 3 of them anyway. I'm going to do the same thing. I'll put these in the same Ziploc bag. Even though hopefully most of this will be replaced with new stuff, it's still a good idea to keep all the hardware you pull off. You never know when you're going to need a spare or a backup, or if you just can't get the parts you need. We're not completely sure if these are good. We know almost nothing about this motor. But we also know that most of the stuff on the old motor still works. Stuff like those sensors and stuff, so now we have even more. Now we gotta get the timing set off. See if I can do this without turning the whole thing out. That's also good to note. A lot of these bolts inside the engine are what they call torque to yield, which means when you torque the bolt down, it's actually very carefully calculated that the bolt is going to reach its absolute maximum clamping force before the bolt really fails. So you can't put it back in once it's used once. I don't know if these are. I don't know. Some engines they are, some engines they aren't. With the LS, I have no clue. So I'm going to keep these, and they're going to be marked, but I'm also going to anticipate getting new ones. You also notice I'm using pretty much all hand tools for this. Not that there's anything wrong with power tools, but sometimes you just feel like doing it with your own hands. So this is the oil pump. So this is something else I'm not sure if we'll put back on. We might not. It is a good idea usually to put things like new oil pumps on when you do these motors, when you do any motor, but you remember, this is a budget project, so we're trying to keep it cheap. So the thing to keep in mind is there's always a fine line between being cheap and being stupid, and that's the line that we really straddle a lot. But like I said, we know nothing about this motor. We have no idea if this oil pump is good, so we might end up playing it safe. So the cool thing about these, so you can take these bolts off, you can actually replace just the gears inside, which is a lot cheaper than just doing the whole oil pump. And if you have the motor out like this, you know, that's really easy. If it's in your truck or car, might be a little more difficult, but that's something else to keep in mind. Just like everything else, oil pump, and the 3 bolts for it. Nope. See, almost messed up right there. Should have done this a minute ago. These are the oil pump bolts. Those three for the cam. See what I mean? Keep track of everything. It'll make it a lot easier when it's time to go back together. Because here's the oil pump, and there's the 4 bolts for it. Now here's one thing that we almost will definitely have to replace. See, there is a massive dent in our camshaft gear. No idea. I don't remember that being there, but it is. You can see right there, it's cracked all the way through. That could have happened on its transportation on the way here, to be honest, because that looks fairly fresh. That's probably our fault. That might go hang on the wall. So this chain, this is one of the things, these are cheap to replace, and it's usually a good idea to do if you're pulling it apart. So I am going to keep this, but I'm not planning on reusing it. This will be our kind of fallback, oh no, everything went wrong. But what I am going to do, just like everything else, I'm going to put these in a bag. And another reason I personally like to do this is so that way when I get a new gear, I have this old one, so I can compare the new gear to this old one and make sure, yep, that is the right one. So here's the old gasket. So this is obviously we're going to put a new one on, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hang this on the wall, so when we get a new one, we can verify the new one matches this old one. Just in case. That's something we had some fun with on the Porsche with the Maserati engine. This will happen with any engine that has different variants, is occasionally they will change something. You know, certain specific years maybe won't have this little cutout or something, but we're going to keep this. Okay, so we're about to have a little bit of fun. To get the camshaft out, this plate has to come off, which it can't because the engine stand is in the way. And it can't rotate quite enough, and the camshaft will still hit this place. So I'm going to have to pick up the motor and slightly reposition it on this stand. Before you say anything, yes, I know this isn't exactly the proper way to lift a motor, but Okay, so like I said, this is stupid. This is not the right way to do this, but it's the way that's going to work, and it's what I'm about to do. I don't think it needs to be said, don't try this at home. I would like to think it's pretty obvious that this is not what you're supposed to do, but there we go. Now I should just sneak it out of there, just like that. Wiggle, 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 is I believe it actually pulled one of the cam bearings out. And that's what it's getting stuck on. That's why I can't pull it out. So what I'm going to do is get that back in place enough I can put this back on. I'm going to flip it over and do the pistons and the crankshaft. And once those are out of the way, I'll come back to this camshaft. So now what we're going to do is flip the motor over. Get out underneath, take out the pistons and crankshaft. Oh, that's a good sound, isn't it? So this is where I'm a little anxious, because these are all the parts that are bad on that motor. You know, obviously, if y'all saw the last video, you know, we blew up pistons, all that fun stuff. So the crankshaft and the pistons and the block. These are the parts that we really need to be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start taking them out. So I'm going to start at the front with piston number 1. I'm going to keep them in that order too. So they go back in the same holes. So what you need to do is get you something softer than metal. And you'll probably need to tap that piston just a little bit. There we go. Piston number 1. So I think we're firmly in the camp of so far so good. Here's your fun little tip. So if you look at these rod caps, you can see they're not like cut. You push them together, but you'll see those lines line up perfectly. So what they'll actually do is they will forge this as one piece, and then they will precisely break it right there. And what that does is that guarantees that when you put these together, these fit together perfectly. But they only fit together one way. Each rod cap goes with its bolt, and the two ends have to be back together just right. So that way when you bolt them back together, these lines match up perfectly. And you put them the wrong way around, you see they won't seat perfectly. So that's something else to look out for. Pay attention to that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this off. Take my paint marker. It's right here. This is number 1. So I'm going to do this with all 8 pistons, so that way the piston goes back in the exact same hole it came out of. So there's 1. Now to do the other 7. Eight little pistons all in a row. Now as you can see, these pistons are a bit dirty, especially right there around the rings, and they have some wear on the skirts, but other than that they're actually pretty good. All of the wrist pins move very smoothly, so I think at the moment our plan is going to be clean these up and reuse them. Obviously we're going to put new rings in them and then clean them up very thoroughly, and all new bearings, but yeah, I think we'll reuse those. Now we get the crankshaft out. Just pretty straightforward. It's just all these bolts right here. Alright, we're back. Took a little bit of a break. Went to Harbor Freight. And look who's here now. Mr. Gonzalez.
What?
Mr. Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. What we're going with now?
Yes. Apparently a Harbor Freight for his account name for whatever. Somehow it came up as Mr. Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So Lucas Gonzalez, everybody.
Well, Luis Gonzalez.
Luis Gonzalez.
I don't know. They misspelled my name, and then they put the wrong email address, but they had my phone number. And it was a clear misspelling of my name. It wasn't someone else who had the same name.
But either way, so we're back now. We're about to finish this up. So here we are, just about to start taking the crank main bearing caps out and get the crankshaft out. And then after that, we're flipping it over and pull the camshaft out, and then we'll be done. Well, first things we do is we come in here and we remove the side bolts. You can see all this. Yeah. The bearings have seen a few miles. There we go. It doesn't get much more improper than this. Holy shit. That is heavy. There we go. Crankshaft out.
Huzzah!
This is legitimately like 40 pounds. Whew.
All right, now all that's left is the camshaft, which, we lined ourselves up pretty poorly for that.
The big problem is this camshaft bearing right there. Yeah, so this is supposed to be stuck right here in this journal.
So, what's the special little thing we found here?
So here's what we found on our camshaft is
Oh my God.
one lobe is almost completely wiped away, and you can see the one next to it is very heavily grooved. So new camshaft incoming. But there we go. Stripped block.
Ready for a hot bath.
Now we have a scrap of camshaft we can do something with.
Could weld it on something.
Yeah.
Could make it a hood ornament.
Hood ornament, lamp. Whistling Diesel, you're watching?
So there you go. Better than a R32 camshaft, apparently.
Yeah. So as it turns out, that cam bearing that we only briefly mentioned earlier in the video might actually be a bit bigger of an issue than we realized at the time. Turns out that bearing spun in the bore really badly and did a little bit of damage. So that block is at the machine shop right now, and he's getting it cleaned up, and he's going to see if it's savable, because if it's not, that whole block is scrap. So we're waiting on news for that to see what we're going to be doing next. What is our path forward? Because we really don't know. We make this up as we go. And if you want to see us make it up as we go, please get subscribed. Hopefully we have good content that you'll enjoy. Leave a like on the video. That helps us out a lot. Leave a comment telling us how dumb we are. In the next video, we will be tearing the blown up engine out of hot garbage and doing an autopsy on that. So I hope to see you guys there.